The horrors of that period shook the world. Millions of Jews and others were targeted for death by the Nazis, and many more millions lived under the brutal tyranny of Stalin in the USSR. So why, with such brutality and suffering all around them, would so many millions continue living where they were, clinging to tiny scraps of freedom while risking starvation, imprisonment, and even death? Why didn't most of them do everything in their power to attempt to escape their terrible jeopardy and the impending atrocities that were sure to come before it would be too late for them? Thankfully, some did escape to freedom, but overall not very many even tried. The Von Trapps were among those who did, and it now seems that just about everyone has seen The Sound of Music, probably many times. That popular story took a lot of creative license with the details, but the Von Trapps were a very real family living during Hitler's rise to power. Unlike so many others, they understood their jeopardy and escaped to freedom just in time. They left behind their homeland, loved ones, wealth, and belongings in order to save themselves from the nightmare they saw coming. And now the world admires them for it. But would we have done what they did? My family and I have had the delightfully good fortune of personally getting to know one of the Von Trapp grandsons, his wife, and their 4 talented children. It's moving to think that this family might not be here today, inspiring so many millions around the world with their beautiful singing, if the Captain and Maria hadn't made that extremely difficult but wise choice in the midst of their own crisis of freedom. But what about all the others? Most of those who saw the very same warning signs chose to stay, hoping and praying that things would somehow get better. Some stayed and tried to make things better. Others were simply resigned to their fate or frozen in their tracks with fear. Countless millions who stayed suffered horribly, and so many of them died. And many of them have no family carrying on their name or living in freedom today. Would you have chosen to stay just as they did? How much jeopardy and threat to our freedom is enough to actually move us? In times of great danger and jeopardy, we all have to stop, face the facts, and ask ourselves at what risk to us and to our families will we choose to stay and fight, or try to change things, or just wait and take our chances with our lives, our liberty, and our future. At what risk, especially when there's an alternative open to us? Each of us will likely face this question, whether now or later. I don't know about you, your views, or your motivations regarding any of these things, and I certainly can't tell you what you should or shouldn't do about the current crisis of freedom. That has to be entirely up to you. But whether you're concerned about the loss of your freedom, or you just want greater freedom for yourself and your family, I want you to know about a realistic alternative that's now open to you. You can make a rational and bold choice to someday soon get away from the jeopardy of this impending loss of your liberty. And it's not really a new kind of choice, because it's been made already by countless other freedom-seeking pilgrims and pioneers down through history. And that includes our own ancestors in freedom, the Plymouth Pilgrims. And the choice that you can make is much like theirs, but it could bring you even more freedom than they ever knew. Your choice can be to join together with others that I like to call freedom pioneers, who are of like mind and spirit. Together, those who choose to can go to a new place to be called New Liberty, that will be ready for those who love ultra-freedom. You could say that New Liberty will be a land for the brave enough to be free. I'm talking about creating a new and modern micronation, where true freedom is highly treasured and diligently protected. If this sounds like a pretty radical idea to you, just keep in mind that almost all revolutionary movements and beneficial concepts are at first called radical, and so was America. But what's really radical is the destruction of essential liberty, bankrupting an entire nation, confiscating personal wealth, regulating virtually every aspect of our lives, imposing a national agenda on the world, becoming debtors to our enemies, and sentencing our children and our grandchildren to lifelong servitude and mega-trillions of dollars in debt. Now that's radical. New Liberty is envisioned to be a place where personal responsibility is honored and always expected, where prosperity can constantly flourish without being needlessly suppressed by unnecessary regulations or any taxation. A new country where crushing public debt, rampant crime, social decay, and government bondage will not be tolerated. Instead, there will be a common support and encouragement for thriving, free, and peaceful life. Before you doubt that it's reasonable or even possible in our day and age to start a new country like New Liberty, consider these facts. Every nation in history that's cherished freedom enough to become a new home for it had to have some starting point. And most began with a very small and devoted population. That was the case with the United States. So, the idea of starting a new free country shouldn't be viewed in any way as being impossible, impractical, or anything to be discouraged. Just think about it. America has itself for many years now been spending over $1 trillion of borrowed money, plus the precious cost of the lives of many thousands of its own citizens, and even more lives of others, trying with guns in hand to bring about freedom and democracy in faraway and unlikely places in the world. So the idea of starting a new, free, small country like New Liberty in a peaceful and honorable way certainly can't be viewed as anything but positive and reasonable. It can only improve the world by bringing more freedom and more opportunity for more people. But, you ask, where in the world of today could you go to start such a new country? I'm happy to answer that now. The world already has within it many micronations with populations of 50,000 or less. Some are centuries old, but most have become independent countries just within the past 2 or 3 decades. And among these are some very peaceful, very beautiful, and well-located places with good infrastructures, and they're already functioning as democracies. Some primarily speak English. But since the economic crash, many are struggling to survive. In their desperate attempt to stay afloat while they wait out the economic storm, many of these countries have borrowed heavily from the IMF, World Bank, and other sources. This has left them with heavy and growing public debt for their small size, which is a major problem for them. In short, they're stuck, with diminishing resources, often fewer people, and an unsustainable debt. And they have no visible path out of their dilemma and no signs of a brighter horizon. It's virtually certain that one or more of these struggling micro-democracies would warmly welcome as a godsend the opportunity for a fresh new beginning for them, along with bright hope for their future. Their new start would include the full payoff of their few $billion of public debt. It would mean the opportunity to be even more free, living in a very prosperous, productive, and entrepreneurial modern new nation. Not to mention a very long and growing waiting list of people from around the world who would want to visit and become citizens there. The existing nation would transition and become the new nation of New Liberty. And this would start the influx of the waiting and ready financially stable group of freedom pioneers. So let me now explain the essential vision and plan for New Liberty. First, we'll attract and assemble through intercommunications a sufficient number of committed freedom pioneers from the U.S. and around the world. These will be people like you and me who sincerely believe in the philosophy, principles, and purposes of New Liberty. The essential criteria to be a freedom pioneer will be good character, a commitment to the principles of New Liberty, the ability to speak English, and sufficient financial resources to be self-sustaining for an initial period. And once enough freedom pioneers are ready and waiting to become part of this great new experiment in liberty, all of the many and varied talents, skills, resources, and financial capabilities represented will be analyzed and made a part of a comprehensive formal presentation and proposal. I'll just call it the offer. The search for potential suitable places for New Liberty has already begun and will continue. The final selected micronations will then be put in order by preference, and each in order will be discreetly approached with the offer. The first nation to accept the offer and approve it by a 2/3 majority vote will then become the home of New Liberty. New Liberty will be a simple, very efficient, and modern constitutional democracy, existing in the form of a public covenant trust. The founding declaration and Constitution of New Liberty will clearly state without hesitation that all essential human rights come from God, our Creator, who is to be honored and our lives lived in dependence upon Him while we seek to love our neighbors as ourselves. Full religious freedom will then flow from that essential foundational common position, with no further requirement of stated faith for residency or leadership. Much more information about New Liberty will be given to those who are sincerely interested, but here are several of the key points about it. There will be absolutely no taxes of any kind assessed to New Liberty's citizens or businesses, nor added to the cost of any goods or services. Nor will there be any entitlements, subsidies, or public pensions for anyone or any entity. Charity among the people will be encouraged and practiced, but there will be no public charity offered, nor programs of redistribution of wealth allowed. An extremely small and efficient governing body with short service terms. Support for public services will come from use fees, leases, and interest. No independent central bank will control the currency or monetary policy. New Liberty will mint, issue, and control its own sound and stable currency. Privacy will be highly treasured and protected to the greatest degree possible. Responsibility will be honored and expected of all in every realm. New Liberty will begin and must remain a debt-free nation. There will be maximum efficiency of every kind, including pollution-free technologies. The environment will be kept clean through care and responsible use. Security and safety will be provided without the need for a standing military. Travel to and from New Liberty will be simple, easy, and abundant. Laws will be clear and few, and each based on common sense and the age-old golden rule. Justice will be fair, simple, orderly, and swift, with efficient courts and peer juries. There will be no prisons, just fines, loss of citizenship, and capital punishment. There will be careful pre-screening of all visitors and new citizens as a vital policy. The citizens of New Liberty will be free to hold citizenship in other countries. With all of these and other freedom dynamics, New Liberty, though small, will likely soon become known throughout the world as a modern beacon and an outstanding example of simple, full, and practical ultra-freedom. It may come to be viewed as the freest country in all of history. Those who are among the first to commit to helping give life to New Liberty will of course be the first to be allowed to be its citizens. New Liberty will of course never be a perfect place or some panacea for every person, situation, or problem. But it can certainly be a far better, freer, safer, more responsible, and more prosperous place than most have ever been. It's not going to be some fantasy land. It will have many problems, challenges, and growing pains to deal with. But New Liberty is a very realistic and extremely worthwhile vision and quest. It's not just a dream. There are some of us, hopefully many of us, who at one time or another have pondered the idea of such a new and free place like New Liberty. But perhaps the idea was dismissed as too much to hope for or unrealistic. Well, I and some others think it's not only realistic, we think it's time. So we're now calling together as many others of like mind and spirit as we can to work together as quickly and efficiently as possible to bring this vision of New Liberty to life while there still may be time to do it. But time is short. It will, of course, take a considerable number of people with many varied skills and resources, including some with very substantial financial resources, including even billions, to bring New Liberty into existence. There are billionaires who treasure freedom, maybe some even more than most. So if you're someone of even modest means who has the spirit of a freedom pioneer, you're invited to consider helping make it all happen. I've given you the reasons and the essence of the vision of New Liberty, and now you can consider it all for yourself. At this point, you fortunately still have the time and opportunity to make a choice about your own pathway to freedom and prosperity. After hearing this, you may still decide to continue much as others around you, staying where you are, doing what you can do, and taking your chances with your future and your freedom. And that may also be the choice you're making for your family. I hope and pray that you'll think long and hard about that. But at least now you know about this worthy alternative of New Liberty that you can pursue. And if the basic idea of joining with others to help start New Liberty is of some initial interest to you, then I'm asking you to take 2 simple steps right now. The first is just to email us at the address appearing on the screen. We'd like to hear from you very soon. In your email, please tell us where you encountered this presentation, something about yourself, and your reasons for your interest. The other step is just to tell others you know about New Liberty and have them watch this video just as you did. Perhaps you'll even want to invite them to see it with you so you can discuss it together. I want you to be assured that your privacy will be fully protected by us. By emailing and expressing your initial interest, you're in no way indicating full agreement with this presentation or with every aspect of the vision and plan for New Liberty as I've described it. And you're certainly not obligating yourself or committing in any sense to anything at all at this time. Nor are we who are spearheading this committing anything to you at this time. By emailing us, you're simply expressing that you have some initial interest in what I've presented, and you're letting me and others with me know that you have a desire to stay in communication so you can go to our website, receive our emails, and find out more about it all as we go ahead. So thanks very much for taking the time to stay with all that I've had to say about the jeopardy of a dying America and the vision for New Liberty. We look forward to hearing from those of you who are considering being freedom pioneers very soon.